At 2:34 a.m., December 12th, 1941, Manila Bay was on fire. Oil burned across the water like floating rivers of flame. Smoke swallowed the stars, and in the middle of that chaos, a destroyer was dying. The destroyer was the USS Peary. She had been bombed. Her forward magazine was cooking off. Her hull was rolling slowly to port, and in the black water around her, 127 American sailors were fighting to stay alive. Above them, Japanese floatplanes circled. Machine guns flashed. There were strafing men in the water. A decision, no doctrine. Aloud, 2 miles away, a small wooden boat watched through binoculars. PT-41, 77 feet long. Wooden hull, built to attack, not to rescue. On her bridge stood a 29-year-old lieutenant, John D. Bulkeley. Standard Navy doctrine was clear. PT boats do not approach burning ships. Secondary explosions can destroy you instantly. Enemy aircraft make rescue operations suicide. The radio crackled. Return to base. Air activity prohibits rescue operations. Bulkeley didn't answer. He kept watching the men in the water. He had already seen Cavite Naval Yard destroyed that week, seen fuel depots explode, seen men trapped in fire. He had watched enough men die. He lowered the binoculars. "We're going in." The risk his executive officer stared at him. "Sir, aircraft are still overhead." Bulkeley's answer was calm. "Then we don't stop moving." PT boats were not lifeboats. They carried torpedoes, machine guns, 3 Packard engines pushing 4,500 horsepower. They were fast strike weapons. But that night they became something else. Rescue craft under fire. Into the kill zone. Bulkeley pushed the throttles forward. The engines roared, 25 knots, 30 knots. The wooden hull slammed against the choppy bay. Tracer rounds stitched the surface of the water. A Japanese floatplane dove low. Machine guns flashing. Bulkeley grabbed the microphone. "Gunners, engage!" Twin .50 caliber Brownings erupted. The night exploded with sound. The aircraft broke off, not destroyed, but discouraged. It was enough. The impossible plan. They couldn't stop. Stopping meant becoming a target. So Bulkeley improvised. Rope lines were rigged along both sides of PT-41. Life rings tied every few feet. The plan: swing past survivors at speed. Let them grab the lines. Haul them aboard while still moving. It had never been done before. It was insane. It was the only option. First pass. They slowed to 10 knots. The first cluster of sailors appeared in the darkness, faces streaked with oil. PT-41 surged past. Men lunged. Some grabbed rope. Some missed. Crewmen dragged survivors over the rail. 6 aboard, then 8, then 12. The deck filled with shaking, oil-covered men. Above them, the floatplane returned. Crossfire. Now there were 2 aircraft, both diving, both firing. Bullets hammered into PT-41's wooden hull. Splinters flew. 2 crewmen were hit. But the guns kept firing. The boat kept moving. Bulkeley did the math in his head. He could leave now. 26 men saved, or stay and risk losing everyone. He didn't hesitate. One more pass. When the destroyer rolled as PT-41 turned back, the USS Peary rolled completely over. Her keel lifted into the air. Then she disappeared beneath the surface. The suction was violent. Several sailors were pulled under instantly. The floatplanes attacked simultaneously, from both sides, exactly what Bulkeley feared. Machine guns raked the length of the boat. PT-41 could not outrun both at once, so Bulkeley did something reckless. Emergency reverse, full power. The wall of water, The engine screamed. The stern dug in. A towering wall of white spray erupted behind the boat. 15 feet of blinding water. The floatplanes fired, but couldn't see. Bulkeley threw a rope. "Grab on! 10 seconds!" 5 men caught it. The crew hauled them aboard as bullets punched into the hull. Then, full throttle forward, the last man. As they accelerated, Bulkeley saw one more survivor, an officer, still directing men in the water, still trying to maintain order in chaos. "Bring us alongside." They had seconds. Bulkeley reached down with one arm. The officer grabbed it. He hauled him aboard. Lieutenant Commander Alan Montgomery of the Peary. "Thank you," the officer whispered. Bulkeley answered simply, "Hold on." Escape PT-41 accelerated to 35 knots, weaving unpredictably left, right, throttle cut, full power. The floatplanes made 2 more runs, then broke off. Low on fuel, the bay grew quiet. Only oil fires burned where the destroyer had been. On deck, 44 rescued sailors, 12 PT crew, 56 men on a boat designed for 12. 2 wounded, dozens of bullet holes, but alive. The consequence. Back at base, Bulkeley was met by senior officers. His radio had malfunctioned. Officially, unofficially, everyone knew. He had disobeyed orders and saved 44 lives. The rescue techniques developed that night became doctrine, used dozens of times later in the Pacific. Hundreds more were saved because of what happened in Manila Bay. Months later, Bulkeley would evacuate Douglas MacArthur from the Philippines, an operation that would make him famous. He would receive the Medal of Honor, but he later said the hardest mission of his life was that night in Manila Bay, because fame wasn't involved, only choice. 44 men lived because one commander decided some orders were worth breaking.